All right, guys, welcome back to Horse Force. So it's day 20, and I didn't know what day 20 was going to look like. I really didn't. And we can see here at day 20 that some of the other players on the map do have artillery, and some of the other players on the map are not reacting to the artillery and are losing a lot of troops. I don't know if Scotland has left the game. He sort of left a cryptic message in the newspaper, if I recall correctly. Let's see. Not on this day. Maybe on day 19. Yeah. Remember to feed my horses next time. What? I don't know what that means, but like he has some land here. He landed and was making an initial attack here, which I think was premature because, you know, the rest of us were sort of trying to make landfall in the north, in North America, and kind of use Sir Tandum as a foothold here to move in. But he went in and maybe he got clobbered. I don't know. But like, I don't know why he's not falling back. You know, certainly there's a lot of troops here from some of the Horse Force nations, Latin America, Morocco. But he's just sitting there getting slaughtered. And that's unfortunate to see a horse get slaughtered. So dumb. All right. Anyway, in the rest of the map, basically we're continuing our invasion of North America. So I want to sound the call again. If you're watching this video, if you are in Horse Force and you've run out of expansion territory, it looks like a lot of Africa, they're done expanding. There's no more to expand. Just head west. Ladies and gentlemen, just head west. Now, if you're anywhere in the Middle East, anywhere in Asia, there's still a lot of room to expand here. So I would encourage you, let's fill in these beige gaps, right? Let's fill them in. Let's make them blue. By golly. I do see something happening over here I wanted to comment on. It looks to me like Ukraine is moving in potentially to defend Benaya over here, or to destroy Benaya. I don't know which one it is. And either one would be acceptable within the parameters of this game. Benaya is on vacation. If you haven't watched his videos over there, you should. Benaya's got a great perspective on things. He's been a spy master this game. And as you know, his spy master is named J. Edgar Hoover. It's not. He didn't choose that one, but he should have. Anyway, as he left for vacation, he said, you know, I hope I'm still here when I get back. But if I'm not, I won't be mad. I get it. And so I don't know what's happening here. On one hand, let's say Ukraine. Yeah. On one hand, Raya Horse, is that what it was? On one hand, Raya Horse. Yeah. He might be coming over here to defend. That's a legit possibility here. He also might be coming over here to overlay and then attack. So I don't know what's happening here. I will say this looks potentially maybe more defensive. Oh, I hate when this happens. This looks like Korea here was intending for this to be a shoreline defense, maybe. But then if you just make it a hair over the line, he's in the water. You can see the little anchor there because he's anchored to the bottom of the ocean with a big, heavy metal anchor. Why do I keep saying anchor? I don't know. God damn it, I got to stop it. All right, so as we continue here, though, we can see certain Russian Siberia apparently has right-of-way with Mongolia. Mongolia being really the biggest single territory that is AI now, out of the game, AFK. But it seems like the major powers in the region don't want to take them on, and I get it. I've been there, you know, like I really do not like dealing with large, you know, AI inactive former, you know, allies or whatever, former players. So sometimes you just try to play neutral with them. And you know, of course, up here, if Bacharik up here in Russian Siberia, if he has right-of-way here, that means he's a couple shades away from having to worry about Mongolia attacking him, right? So if you're if your neighbor, your AI neighbor is blue, in other words, you have right of way or share map with them, then you're not in immediate danger of being attacked. And so typically you'll go ahead and wage campaigns and wars without having to worry about that person. And that seems like what's happening here. What appears to be happening here is Batrick up here, who is a coalition teammate of Benaya here, who's on vacation, as previously mentioned, appears to be attacking Japan. Now, oh no, he's not attacking Japan. Oh, he's attacking, oh, what? No, he's coming into Mongolia. Because this is Japanese here. So maybe he's going to take the first territory here via land, but at some point he's going to have to get back in the water and attack Japan on the island here, if that's his intent. But so I'm going to go ahead and just say early on, this looks to me potentially like defensive maneuvering. It looks to me like Raya Horse and Horserik appear to be coming over to defend Benaya, who is on vacation with his fam. So if that's the case, that's great. And if it's not the case and they're taking him over, then that's also great because as Benaya said, that's acceptable within the parameters of the game. But I suspect something else is going on there. Chinese Cat is continuing to grow and expand, which I love to see. And there's still more room. Like Chinese Cat is in a very enviable position because he's there where there's a lot of smaller territories, a lot of smaller countries that can slowly be eaten. Down here in India, we do have our friend Power. But what we do know about Power is that he's a smart and experienced player who, unfortunately, is in school and cannot play at all during the day. And so those of us in the United States realize that kids in the US play video games and group chat and do crap on their phones all day long, like literally all day long. And and Power of Us happens to be a kid who is learning in school, apparently. And, you know, we laugh, but he's going to do great, you know, like he's going to, I would have to say if you're on group chats and playing games throughout the day, that's okay. I'm not going to judge. But if you really want to, you know, sort of focus on higher level careers and, you know, maybe to become a doctor or, even something like an accountant or a professional career of some kind, you probably shouldn't be playing this game during your school day, you know, if you're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. Now, don't get me wrong. If you are doing that, I'm not judging you. Okay. I'm not judging you. I was the kind of student that did that. And I ended up going ahead and becoming a professional myself. I was a high school math teacher for 20 years. So, you know, I'm not making any judgment calls. I'm just saying that I do want to reinforce to Power, like he can't devote as much time to this game as some of us can, but it's because he really is focusing on his education and his parents are very protective of that. And so big respect to Power, who somehow manages to hang into these games and do well, despite the fact that he's away from any contact for 8 hours a day. And then, of course, he goes to sleep like all of us do. But, you know, like, that's pretty impressive. So Power's down here. He did drop out of the game and back in, and then he's back out again. You can see he's AFK here. And that does tend to happen because he is, you know, somewhat disconnected. Anyway, if you haven't checked out if you haven't checked out Power of Us's videos, then please do check him out. He posts them sometimes on Discord. And so it's cool. Just he kind of has a stream of consciousness thing where he just talks about what's going on in the game. And so go check it out. There are currently several players who have active YouTube presences. One was Benaya, who I've mentioned. Now, Benaya is included in this exact playlist. So if you're watching this video, you can track back to the playlist and see some of Benaya's videos where he's playing the Merchant of Menace, where he's playing the spy game. By the way, did want to announce this. I think we're going to do a spy spectacular game We're going to do a massive game where everyone on our team just uses spies. That I believe that's probably going to be our next specialty game, our next meme game coming up here, Spy v Spy. I'll have to talk to Benaiah when he gets back from vacation and see what he wants to do with that. He will be in charge of that game. He will be in charge of organizing. I will help to promote it, of course, as always. We do have a role-playing game coming up that my friend Olesa is putting together, good old Oli. And so a lot of you are already on his server, sort of waiting for further directions. I don't know anything about it, but I did tell him I'm happy to promote it because we love weird stuff here on this channel, and we love nerdy stuff on this channel, and we love role playing. I don't know how many of you listening to me right now have been into role play at whatever point in your life, and whether it's D&D or just online gaming or whatever. It's fun. It's fun. You know, it's like acting slash, you know, fantasy, you know, what is it? Society for Creative Anachronism, the SCA, out there. So I have to tell you this. Let me just tell you this, and then I'm going to go because I've taken way too long on this one. So many of you know about the Renaissance Festival, right? So the Renaissance Festival has been going on for years and years. It's usually promoted and supported by some kind of art institute or some kind of university, wherever they're located. And so as a kid, you know, and I say kid, I mean like 15, 16-year-old, I really enjoyed going to the art, you know, to the Renaissance Festival. And it was in our region. It's put on by the Art Institute in Kansas City. So, so I would dress up and I, you know, put on whatever outfit I could, you know, sort of slap together with, you know, totally non-authentic, you know, if I could find like a leather, like a you know, suede vest that my mom had from the 60s, I would put that on and, you know, put a feather in my hat, or, you know, who knows, whatever, you know, try to get some sort of, you know, hose or, you know, boots, or I don't know, man. But I would sort of, you know, cobble together rather, some kind of costume. So anyway, at some point I got involved with this group who was located, you know, in Kansas City, pretty close to me actually. And it was this guy, Chris, and he was an older gentleman, and he taught fencing. So we would usually work with épée, mangage, foils, sabers, just various sort of fencing weapons that are all, of course, blunted. But we didn't use any of the safety gear. Like, so we didn't have the masks that you see, the face masks, and we didn't have, you know, sort of any kind of protective clothing or padding or anything like that. And so our number one rule, so when you're fencing, you stand sideways. So you'll provide the smallest possible target. And every movement you make when you're blocking, you don't, like, if you see in the movies, they sweep their blade and they smack the blade aside. You don't do that in fencing. In fencing, you twist your wrist, because it's all about making the smallest possible movement, expending the smallest amount of energy in the fastest possible way to divert your enemy's blade away from you. So if someone stabs at you, someone makes an attack at you, right? They thrust. And if you twist your wrist and make their blade, and their blade only misses you by a ½ inch, then you have done the best block ever, because you don't need it to be 2 inches away from you. You don't need to be 4 inches away from you. You just need it to be away from you. So if you've avoided an attack and it just skims the edge of the clothing, you know, of your shirt or whatever, then you've done the best possible thing. It's a very linear, very sort of a beautiful interplay of linear forces. It's hard to describe, but it was a lot of fun. So we would go to Renfests and we would put on weapons demos, and we did two different things. We did fencing, and there's a lot of different kinds of fencing. You can do fencing with I used to love the saber and mangage. So in your right hand you'd have a saber, and a saber is just sort of, it's like a foil, like a fencing weapon, but it's a little more sturdy. And then in your left hand, you'd have mangage, which is basically a fencing weapon that's been cut off about 18 inches from the hilt. And I usually held the mangage pointing down. So if you can imagine your fist, if you hold your fist out and the sword is upside down in your hand, it's pointing to the ground, right? But that's a defensive weapon. So you'd use your mangage as a defense, right? Instead of a shield, you'd hold your mangage. And I used to love that. To me, that was the best thing ever, because I'm fighting right-handed. So I've got my right hand extended with my saber, extended towards you. And then my mangage is ready to deflect if something gets past that initial defense. And we also did staff fighting. And staff fighting was difficult to do because a lot of staff fighting, the win comes from just crowning someone. Just if you were in medieval times and you were staff fighting, the way to win is to just crunch somebody's head, and of course you can't do that. So a lot of our staff fighting had to be, I'm in a position where I could have hit you, and I bring my staff down in a manner that would be close to hitting you, but I can't even kind of hit you, right? I mean, bones get broken. So anyway, we would go and we'd do these demos, and Chris was a good showman. Our main guy, he was a good showman, and he had a giant beard, as you have to if you're a medieval fencing instructor. And he'd come out and he'd talk about the weapons. And we'd come out and do various weapons demos. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was really cool actually, because they were real fights. We'd have real fights. Chris, for instance, could use 2 sabers. He'd have a saber in each hand, so a full length fencing sword in each hand, and he could fend off 2 of us. He was good. He was our teacher for a reason. And so he could fend off 2 of us. So that would be part of the demo, of course, as well. And if you heard that, that was my phone falling onto my drum kit. And you're wondering, what's going on over there? Don't worry about it. So anyway, the reason I told this whole story, which, by the way, if you want to quit this video at any time, I encourage you to do so. But the reason I brought that up is, we used to go watch the SCA, and those are the people who dress up in full armor, right? And then they have these huge foam swords wrapped in tape, and they just beat the shit out of each other, right? And so I've come now to have a perspective where I really respect those people, because they're having fun, and they're like calling out to each other using Middle English styled language or whatever, which is usually kind of King James Bible kind of language. I tell thee, whatever. But they're having fun, and they're invested, and all the same stuff that we're talking about for role play, they're getting to do. Only they're getting to do it live. So I've learned to really respect it and think it's cool. But at the time, we were such snobs. We were like, oh, that's not real weaponry. And it's not really, because they were dealing with they would have a great sword, right? So a great sword could be as long as 6 feet long, right? And in real life, that's a heavy weapon, right? You don't lift it and then attack someone with it. If you have a great sword, you have to attack in circles. And what I mean is, you have to let the sword swing, right? Swing in big circles. And so while it's devastating, it's also, I don't want to say easy to block or not block. No, sorry. It's not easy to block, but it's easy to skip aside, right? Because it's big, it's heavy, and it's moving in a predictable way. Whereas we were fencers, right? And Chris would always tell us, and it's a legit historic fact, is that the reason that we went from huge, heavy swords to light, quick swords was that somebody without any armor on at all, with a nice little saber, could dodge aside of your giant fucking greatsword and pierce the sort of the weaknesses in your armor at the neck, or at the, if you're, and the thing is, you can be real accurate with a saber too, right? You're not swinging around this giant thing. It's a very lightweight, very quick and easy to move weapon. So of course we were all, very, snobbish about it, oh, look at those guys with their big foam, like giant foam swords. And, you know, the thing, legitimately, it was kind of lame because here you've got a great sword that if it was real would be like, you know, 40 pounds of weight. And don't forget, the further away from your hand that weight gets, the heavier it gets because of, you know, leverage and whatnot. And but for them, it's like a fucking pool noodle, right? So they're just like swinging around like a great sword as though it were a fencing sword, you know? And I don't know how to fix that, really. Like, if you wanted realistic depictions of what large weaponry looked like, so we're talking great hammers, you know, great swords, which they all had, you know, they all had their foam equivalents of that. But, you know, it's like, I don't know how you can realistically do that. I don't think you can, you know. But let's rewind a little bit. So we were snobbish because we were doing real weaponry with real weapons that obeyed physics and were historically accurate. We were, you know, poo-pooing them because they were using weapons that were unrealistic, and for the size of them were nothing. The physics were wrong, right? So you can't change the direction of a great sword if you're swinging it down an arc to somehow then slap sideways and, you know, take someone's arm off or whatever. That's not how heavy large weapons work. But what I've since come to realize is like, well, you know, what are you going to do? You can't, you know, those guys were having fun. They were fully armored. They had big ass weapons that were foamed and wrapped in duct tape, and they were beating the shit out of each other. And I've looked back on it and I'm like, I don't care if it was accurate or not. First of all, the whole point, what the name of the group is the Society for Creative Anachronism. So the word anachronism, if you don't know, means that something that's not exactly time accurate, right? Something that's not specific to that time exactly. So, I mean, they say it in their own name. It's like, we're just here having fun and we're role playing this, and we don't actually want to hit each other with war hammers that weigh, you know, 40 pounds and swung with enough, you know, power to cave in your chest. Like, we just want to actually, you know, have fun and role play out here. So, having said all of that, I don't know why, but but what I did want to say is that, again, Olesa is coming out with a role-playing game pretty soon, and he's talking about a lot of different rules, and so I'm not familiar with any of that at all. So let's just keep our ears to the ground, hear what happens there next. So what I mean to say is that we've got coming up soon, we're going to have Benaya's spy game, which I need to talk with him, and we're going to iron out the details for that. Olesa's role-playing game, which will be coming up as well. I'm not sure when the time frame is for that exactly. And then I did want to say I'm looking for another sort of meme game or interesting themed game coming up here. So if anybody has any ideas, drop them in the comments below. Or you can, of course, just let me know in the Discord. Anybody who knows is that, yeah, we have 700 subscribers, but I do communicate. I am active in the community. So you can reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to talk to you and respond and let you know what's going on. All right, that's about it. I did want to make sure and say, please spank the like button. This is King Spankerton now. I'm signing out, and I'll see y'all next time. Thanks for checking in. Adios, ami amigos.